Imagine a place in China where the mountains rise like ancient walls, where the Yellow River bends around the land like a golden border, and where wooden temples from 1,000 years ago still stand today. This is Shanxi. Most foreign visitors to China know Beijing, Shanghai, Xi'an, or Guilin, but Shanxi is different. It is quieter, older, and in many ways more mysterious. It does not shout out for attention. It waits for you to notice. And once you do, you will realize something extraordinary. Shanxi is one of the birthplaces of Chinese civilization. It is a land protected by mountains, nourished by rivers, and filled with some of the oldest surviving wooden buildings in China. If you want to understand how China became China, Shanxi is one of the best places to begin. In this episode, we will travel through Shanxi's geography, its rivers and mountains, its role in Chinese history, and the ancient wooden structures that make it one of the most important cultural landscapes in the world. Welcome to Shanxi, the majestic land between rivers and mountains. Shanxi is located in northern China, west of Beijing and east of the Yellow River. Its name literally means west of the mountains, referring to its position west of the Taihang Mountains. But Shanxi is not just located beside mountains, it is shaped by them. To the east, the Taihang Mountains form a dramatic natural barrier. To the west and the south, the Yellow River curves around the province, creating one of China's most meaningful geographic borders. Inside Shanxi, the land is filled with plateaus, valleys, passes, cliffs, and basins. This geography made Shanxi both protected and connected. Protected because mountains made it difficult for armies to invade. Connected because river valleys and mountain passes allow people, goods, armies, religions, and ideas to move through the region. In Chinese history, geography is never just scenery. Geography is destiny. And the Shanxi's destiny was to become a bridge between the central plains of China, the northern grasslands, and the western regions. To understand the Shanxi, we must begin with the Yellow River. The Yellow River is often called the Mother River of China. Along its middle reaches, early agricultural communities developed, states formed, and the Chinese civilization began to take shape. Shanxi sits beside this great river. The river gave life, but it also created boundaries. On one side were fertile lands and early settlements. On the other were rugged mountains and defensive terrain. This combination made Shanxi a place of both farming and strategy. For thousands of years, people lived along Shanxi's river valleys, growing crops, building settlements, and developing rituals, social structures, and political power. In Chinese legends and early history, this region is connected with ancient rulers, early states, and the beginnings of Chinese political culture. Whether we look at archaeology, mythology, or recorded history, Shanxi always appears close to the origins. This is why Shanxi is not simply a province with old buildings. It is a landscape where civilization itself was formed. If the Yellow River gave Shanxi life, the mountains gave it strength. The Taihang Mountains in the east are among the most important mountain ranges in Chinese history. They separate Shanxi from the North China Plain, where many dynasties built their capitals and fought for control. This made Shanxi a natural highland fortress. Whoever controlled Shanxi could defend the central plains, watch the northern frontiers, and command important routes between different regions. Throughout history, Shanxi was often a military buffer zone. It stood between the agricultural China and nomadic powers of the northern steppe. Armies crossed passes, fortresses were built in its mountains, towns grew around its strategic roads. One of the most famous examples is the area around Yanmen Pass, an ancient gateway through the Great Wall system. For centuries, this pass was a key defensive point against the northern invasions. So when we look at the Shanxi's geography, we should not only see beautiful mountains, we should see a military map, a survival strategy, and the reason why this province mattered to empires, generals, merchants, and monks. Now we come to one of Shanxi's greatest treasures. Shanxi preserves many of China's oldest traditional wooden buildings. In fact, a large proportion of the surviving ancient wooden structures from early periods are found here. Why Shanxi? There are several reasons. First, Shanxi's inland location protected many sites from coastal wars, foreign invasions, and modern urban destruction. Second, the dry climate helped preserve wood better than in humid regions. Third, Shanxi had strong religious and merchant traditions. Temples, monasteries, guild halls, ancestry halls, and opera stages were built across the province. The result is astonishing. In Shanxi, you can still find wooden halls from the Tang, Liao, Jing, Yuan, Ming, and Qing periods. These buildings are not just old. They are records of Chinese engineering, aesthetics, religion, and daily life. Places like Foguang Temple on Mountain Wutai, Yingxian Wooden Pagoda, Jingci Temple, and many smaller village temples show how deeply architecture was woven into Chinese civilization. These structures were built without modern machines. Many relied on complex wooden bracket system, known as dougong, which allowed buildings to carry heavy roofs and survive centuries of wind, rain, and earthquakes. When you stand before these buildings, you're not just looking at architecture, you're looking at the time made visible. Shanxi was also a spiritual and commercial crossroads. Mount Wutai, one of China's 4 sacred Buddhist mountains, became a major center of Buddhist worship. Pilgrims came from across China and beyond. Temples were built in the mountains. Monks, scholars, artists, and travelers passed through. This made Shanxi not only a political and military region, but also a secret landscape. Later, during the Ming and Qing dynasties, Shanxi became famous for its merchants. Shanxi merchants, often called Jing merchants, built business networks across China and even beyond its borders. They were pioneers of finance, trade, and banking-like institutions. Their wealth created grand family compounds, guild halls, theaters, and temples. Places like the Qiao family compound reveal another side of Shanxi, not only ancient and secret, but also practical, commercial, and worldly. So Shanxi's identity is layered. It is a land of farmers and monks, soldiers and merchants, mountains and courtyards, temples and trade routes. So why is Shanxi vital to Chinese history? Because it helps explain several major themes of Chinese civilization. First, the relationship between geography and power. Shanxi shows how rivers, mountains, and passes shaped politicals and warfare. Second, the relationship between civilization and memory. Shanxi's ancient buildings preserve forms of Chinese life that has disappeared elsewhere. Third, the relationship between center and frontier. Shanxi was never isolated. It stood between the agricultural heartland and the northern grasslands, between settled empires and mobile cultures. And finally, Shanxi reminds us that Chinese civilization was not created in one city or one dynasty. It was formed across landscapes, river valleys, plateaus, mountain passes, secret peaks, and market towns. Shanxi is one of those landscapes. When people imagine China, they often think of great walls, imperial palaces, crowded cities, or futuristic skylines. But Shanxi gives us another image of China, a quieter image, a wooden temple standing on a mountain after 1,000 years, a river bending around an ancient land, a courtyard where merchants once planned journeys across Asia, a mountain pass where soldiers watched the northern horizon, a village stage where opera was performed for gods and ancestors. Shanxi teaches us that civilization is not only built by empires and armies, it is also built by craftsmen, monks, farmers, merchants, and ordinary families who pass their world from one generation to the next. In Shanxi, history is not buried, it still stands. Wrapped in rivers and mountains, Shanxi remains one of China's great cultural guardians, a place where the deep past is not silent, but alive in wood, stone, earth, and memory. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through Shanxi, please like, subscribe, and join me in the next video as we continue exploring the landscapes, stories, and hidden treasures of China.